the slide which I'm now going to project regarding this. Are you able to see this slide which is on the screen?
Yes, sir.
That is the laser material processing slide, first slide. Okay, very good. So now I go through this slide, and from here I can also do the recording. So in the laser material processing, you have got a laser system whose beam is focused with the help of a lens onto the workpiece, and then there is a nozzle through which a shielding gas is flown through. Now, on what characteristics the laser focal spot diameter depends at this location. So let me have my pointer. Okay, so what are the parameters which is going to determine the laser power density? And before that, what are the parameters which is going to decide the beam diameter when you focus with the help of a lens? So let us see in the second slide. So the important parameter of a laser beam, as you know, that one is the laser wavelength. This is lambda. It could be expressed in nanometers or micron. So the lasers are available. CO2 laser is available at around 10.6 micron wavelength, which is relatively long compared to Nd:YAG laser, which is available at 1.06, so 10 times less wavelength. So, and if you talk about the visible laser or excimer laser, those are having around 200 to 300 nanometer, which is in ultraviolet regime. Next parameter of the laser beam, the laser power, which in case of continuous wave, we call about like in power in watts. And if it is a pulse laser, then the energy content in the laser pulse, which is we expressed as a in the form of joule energy. So EL is the energy in content in a laser pulse. And in case of laser pulse, another parameter factor is what is the pulse duration. So pulse duration in second we can express. And as you know that today the lasers are available which can give laser pulse of duration ranging from millisecond to microsecond, nanosecond, and pico and sub picosecond. And picosecond is 10 to the power minus 12, and sub picosecond means that is smaller than 10 to the power minus 12 second, that is of the order of 10 to the power minus 13 second or so you can get. So you have got a lot of versatility. In case of pulse laser, you can get pulse duration of any in a very, very wide range, several orders of orders range. Then you have got the laser beam diameter. And another very important factor is the beam quality of the beam. Now, when you consider a laser and you put the laser beam on a screen, like if you take a pointer and you put the pointer on the screen, then you can get a spot. And this spot could have this type of intensity distribution, that is, it will have intensity maximum at the center, and then it will slowly it is going to decrease radially out. So this type of laser pulse is known as a Gaussian intensity distribution of the Gaussian beam, having Gaussian intensity distribution. And Gaussian intensity distribution, usually you can write that, and I can write for you that what is the Gaussian intensity distribution. So the Gaussian intensity distribution at I at any point R radially out is going to be equal to what is the maximum intensity at the center? I0, and then e to the power minus 2r square divided by W naught square, where W naught, this is the actually this arrow has got misplaced, so it is the intensity distribution of this, and W naught from this expression, as you can see, is that beam radius. Okay, so it is actually 2W naught. Okay. So this is the intensity distribution, and for this we say that the beam quality is the best, and here the m square value is 1. And for then in practical laser, when you have got higher power beam, then you find that instead of this type of very well-defined intensity distribution by Gaussian intensity distribution, sometimes you get combination of all these different modes. So these are all known as a transverse electromagnetic modes, and these are defined by if suffix or suffix mn. So this is known as a TEM00 when we say. So this is in general we say that's TEM, and then M and N. Okay, so M and N, this is small m and n can take value 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 depending upon. So if you see that M identifies that how many within the laser beam, how many zero intensity point is there in the x direction. So here you see this in the x direction, there is 1 0 point within the laser beam, zero intensity point. So it is 1 here. If you see cross here, then you see that there are within the laser pulse in the x direction, there are 2 null or zero intensity points. So m value is 2. If you see in this thing, so if you go through this way in x direction, you have got 1, and if you go in the y direction, you have got 1 0 point here. So this mode is identified as a TEM11 mode. Okay, so like that, these are different modes, and in practical laser system, when you get the laser beam, you may have intensity which can be combination of all these different modes. So the in real beam, the intensity distribution could be like this. Now, how to identify or how to express the quality of this laser beam with respect to the Gaussian intensity beam? So this is expressed by m square factor for non-Gaussian intensity beam, where the value of m square is going to be much more than 1. Okay. So how this is going to affect by in laser processing? So depending upon the value of m square, that is the beam quality, and lambda of the laser beam and the beam diameter, the beam divergence of the laser is defined. So what is the beam divergence? Though we say that a laser beam is highly parallel, but since the laser beam has got a finite beam diameter over here, therefore there is a certain finite beam divergence, which is because of the diffraction effect. As you know that any optical light wavefront, when it is apertured, and here apertured because this diameter is a finite diameter, it is not infinite diameter. So it has been apertured to restrict the laser beam with diameter dB. So there will be a certain amount of natural divergence because of the diffraction effect. And that divergence half angle is given by this expression 2m square lambda by pi dB, where m square is the quality factor, lambda is the laser wavelength, and dB is the laser beam diameter here. So you get this divergence, and you cannot have for this type of beam whose quality factor is m square, lambda is the wavelength, and dB is the beam diameter. You cannot have divergence less than this. It could be more than this, but not less than this. So this is the limiting factor. So with such a beam, when you focus this with the help of a lens, then what is going to be the beam spot diameter in the at the focal plane? It will depend on what is the beam divergence. So the focal diameter is given by your 2 into beam divergence, that is the half beam divergence, into what is the focal length f. So f is the focal length, and this is your beam divergence, this angle. And since we are talking about the beam diameter, so we multiply by 2. So the beam divergence part is very, very important in order to determine what is the diameter of the focal spot here. So if you put this factor here, so it becomes 4m square lambda f pi by dB. So here, if you have got the Gaussian laser beam, then you have got m square value is 1, and that is going to be your minimum beam diameter which you can obtain. And what is going to be the laser power density? So the laser power density is nothing but laser power divided by the beam area. So it will be a square of this. So it is like pi by 4 into dB square. Okay, so that is going to be your pi by 4 dB square is going to be your beam area. And when you divide the laser power by this beam area, spot area here, so it should be dF. So it is the dF. I'll correct it before I send to you. Okay, so this is going to be your power density at this point. Okay, and other important factor is what is the interaction time when you have got the continuous wave beam and it is being scanned with a velocity v. Then as you can realize that if you have got a substrate and the laser beam is moving with a velocity v, then and if the diameter of the beam is df here, then and if the v is the velocity, then at any point laser beam is going to interact or dwell on will be determined by the df by v. So this is the time for which the laser beam will remain here, and then it will just go propagate, it will be scanned over the surface. So that is the interaction time. So interaction time and laser power density, these are the two factors, this one and this one, is going to determine the what type of processing we are doing. Now let us see that how the laser beam gets absorbed in any material. Since we are going to describe more about the metals, so let us see that how the laser beam, which is incident on any solid surface, metal surface, how it is going to interact with this metal surface. So metals are opaque to laser radiation and highly reflective. So all metals are polished surface. If you see that all metal surfaces, polished surfaces are highly reflective surfaces. So good amount of the laser power which is incident is reflected. Small amount is going to be, it could be as high as 90% could be reflected, and some part, that is the remaining part, 10% is going to get absorbed. Okay. Now the remaining laser power is absorbed at the top surface within a thin layer of the order of around 10 nanometer. So this 10 nanometer, within this laser power is going to get absorbed on the top surface. And this is known as a attenuation length or optical skein depth. within which the laser power is getting absorbed. Okay. With the rise in surface temperature, similar to electrical resistivity, absorptivity increases. So it is a good luck for material processing that when the laser beam is incident, even though initially only 10% or less than 10% is absorbed, but with since this is getting absorbed in metal in a very, very thin layer, so the temperature tends to rise. And as the temperature tends to rise, the absorptivity or reflectivity starts reducing and absorptivity starts increasing. In fact, if you see the variation with temperature, so if I just try to plot it over here, so this is the temperature of the substrate, and here I am talking about the absorptivity A, which is nothing but equal to 1 minus R. This is the reflectivity. Okay. So if I try to schematically try to indicate this, so the behavior at room temperature, the absorptivity is very low, so it will be like this. And as the temperature increases, it will increase. And then very near to the melting temperature, it is going to saturate and it will be almost like coming to 100 or 90% or so. Okay. So it is going to be like this. And this is the place where we are talking about is it is almost the melting temperature. So when the melting temperature arises, the absorptivity becomes almost like 100%. Okay. And this is mainly because in metal or in any material, the absorption takes place because the laser beam gets absorbed in electron. So in solid, in metal, you have got lot of ions, and in this ions are there in the form of your in the crystal lattice, and then you have got lot of electrons which are revolving around this. So there are a lot of electrons, and these electrons, when the laser beam is incident, they absorb the laser power or laser energy. And after the electrons, they absorb while they are colliding with among themselves and with the slightly bigger ions. Then what will happen? They will also agitate these ions, and these ions are also going to get heated up, and thereby the material gets heated up. So initially, the electrons, they absorb the light energy and they pass on to the ions, and thereby the ions also gets heated up, and through the process the laser power gets coupled in the material. Now as the temperature increases, the collision frequency with the ions that increases, because of that the absorption increases. Now, you may say that in case of dielectric material, how we do not have the free electrons, then how the laser beam is going to get absorbed. So in polymeric material, usually we have got lot of molecular bonds. So if your laser wavelength energy is more than the bond energy, then directly the laser beam is getting absorbed in the bond of the polymeric material. Like if you take Perspex sheet or acrylic sheet, so there the laser beam, if you are using laser like if you are using a CO2 laser, then 10 micron wavelength of the CO2 laser is matching with the lambda of 10.6 micron is matching with the absorption band of acrylic sheet. So there they get absorbed in the bond and the molecule. Now the polymeric material has got lot of gaseous elements, like there are oxygen, nitrogen, helium, not helium, hydrogen, chlorine. All these things are there in this material in a long chain. So it may break and then get released in the gaseous form. And in case of like those materials like glass, which is not a polymeric material, but it is a dielectric material. So you know that the glass is transparent to light. When the sunlight is falling on the glass, you see that the sunlight, all the white light gets transmitted, as well as the heat also gets transmitted, but certain amount of heat also gets absorbed in the glass because of the certain wavelength is matching with the bond of the glass, and that is the SiO bond has got certain absorption at around 10 micron wavelength. Okay, so the white light, the sunlight has got certain infrared radiation at 10 micron, so that gets absorbed in SiO bond, which is there in the glass. Okay. However, if you have got very high intense laser beam, then some of the electrons which are bound with the either silicon or oxygen, they can also be made free, and they will become free like the electrons which are present in the metal. So if you have got very high laser power and you are impinging on a glass substrate, then some of the electrons they can get released from these atoms in the glass, and then they will become free like in metal, and then further energy can be absorbed by these electrons, which has now become free. So for that, the laser power intensity, laser power density, which is required, is of the more than around 10 to the power 9 watt per centimeter square. So if you have got such power density, that is around 10 to the power 9 watt per centimeter square, then even in glass, which is otherwise transparent to that laser wavelength, could get absorbed through this process. This process of getting some of the electrons becoming free is known as a, this process is known as a multi-photon ionization process. Okay, so single photon may not be able to ionize, but lot of photons can get absorbed simultaneously, and it can release the electrons. Okay. Now, with rise, as I mentioned, that your absorption is going to increase. The heat conducts from the top layer into the rest of the material. After once it is heated here, then because of the heat conduction, your metal is going to get heated up. The amount or the depth up to which the heating effect is going to be felt, that is given by thermal diffusion length, and thermal diffusion length is given by this, your delta is equal to 2 under root kappa tau, where tau is the thermal diffusivity of the material and tau is the laser interaction time or the pulse duration. Okay. And thermal diffusivity is given by this expression, thermal conductivity divided by the density of the material and the specific heat. Okay. Now the thermal diffusion length, what does it indicate? So from this one can find that this length is a measure of length or depth to which temperature rise due to thermal diffusion is 10%, nearly 10% of the peak surface temperature. So what does it mean? That if the temperature of the top surface is T0, then at thermal diffusion length delta, if we say that this is the delta, okay, so if this is the depth is delta, then at this point, this is the thermal diffusion length. At this point, temperature will be approximately 0.1 into T0. Okay, so it is going to be like 10% of the top surface. Okay, so it is the temperature here, it is. Okay, so if let us suppose I have raised the temperature to 1500 degree, then at thermal diffusion length, temperature will be of the order of 150 degree or so. So since we are talking about cutting, welding, drilling holes, etc., obviously we will be concerned more about the temperature rise in the range of around 700 degree, 10,000 degree, 1500 degree, even up to boiling temperature of around 2500 degree or 3000 degree or so. Okay. However, we get an idea that up to which the heat has penetrated is given by your thermal diffusion length. Now, here what has been shown here is that schematically laser power is, this is the optical penetration depth, that is skin depth you can say, and the laser beam is temperature has increased, heat conduction is taking place. If the laser power is enough, then it can melt the material, so the surface can just get melted. If the laser power is much more than that, then the certain amount may start vaporizing, and this vapor is going to provide good amount of uh, uh, pressure on the molten material to eject out the molten material. Okay, so the molten material is going to be ejected out because of the required pressure of the vapor which is coming out at very high speed. And when the power of the laser beam is much more than that, then what will happen? Some vapor will get ionized and form the plasma. So all these things can happen depending upon what is the laser power density or intensity at the surface. So depending upon the absorbed laser power density and interaction time, the top surface layer undergoes heating, melting, evaporation, ablation, and plasma formation. Okay, so all these things can take place. Now, exploiting these effects, you can get different characteristics, different material processing done. So if you have got laser power densities in the range of around 10 to the power 3 watt per centimeter square, that is kilowatt per centimeter square, at this power density you will not be able to melt the material. It is just going to heat the material, and by this process, heating process, the material processing modalities like laser surface hardening and laser metal forming, that is the bending of the metal sheet, can be realized by just heating the thin layer of the top surface at the top surface. So just at lower laser power densities, you can get surface hardening done and metal forming, that is bending of the sheet you can do. At 100 watt or more than that, 100 kilowatt per centimeter square power density, you can melt the material, and by this melting phenomena, you can realize the cutting of the metal sheet as well as the conduction welding. Okay, so we can do the welding and cutting of metal sheet at these power densities, that is around 10 to the power 5, that is 100 kilowatt or more. How 100 to 1000 kilowatt per centimeter square is used for cutting and conduction mode of welding. So here there is no vapor is forming, only the melting is taking place. When you go for higher power density, megawatt per centimeter square or so, or more than that, then there is a small amount of vapor is going to create in the molten material, and that vapor, when it is coming out, it is going to put a required pressure on the molten material. Molten material is going to be pushed towards the wall because of the pressure of the vapor, and that is going to create a keyhole in the metal, and this effect of the keyhole is used for drilling effect as well as the deep penetration welding effect. So we'll try to understand these processes more detail when we go for drilling and welding process. When your power densities is more than that, of the order of 10 to the power 7, 10 to the power 9 watt per centimeter square, then this vapor which is coming out can get ionized and form plasma. And this plasma, when it is expanding at a very fast speed, it gives certain amount of shock pressure, shock wave, which is propagating inside this material. And this shock wave is going to introduce certain amount of compressive wave, compressive stress in the surface. And this compressive stress can cause certain amount of hardening, and this process is known as a shock hardening. Sometimes it is also known as a laser pinning, laser shock pinning. So you can see that with the same laser, by controlling the laser power density, if you see the next slide, so it will be more clear that in the y-axis we are showing, we have plotted the laser intensity or laser power density in terms of watt per centimeter square, and in the x-axis we have plotted the interaction time. So depending upon what is the interaction time and laser power density or laser intensity, you can realize all these manufacturing material processing modalities. So when you are having low laser power density and longer interaction time, you can get the surface hardening through transformation hardening. You can do at slightly higher intensity. You can do the surface remelting. You can do surface cladding and alloying. Then if you have got slightly higher power density and lower interaction time, you can do the deep penetration welding as well as cutting. When you get shorter laser interaction time, shorter laser pulse in the range of sub millimeter to sub millisecond to microsecond, you can do the drilling at high power densities. Here the vaporization is taking place, so you can get a certain amount of deep penetration welding also done. Okay, here when the vaporization is taking place, and you can also go at high power density laser shock pinning you can do. And when you talk about micro machining and micro drilling, you can use shorter duration pulse, and you can get very good quality of micro machining done at high laser intensities, that is of the order of 10 to 11 watt per centimeter square. So you can see that by controlling the laser intensity and the interaction time, you can realize all different types of material processing modalities. So all these modalities have been written here. Here it is laser cutting of metal sheet, glass, wood, plastic, textile, rubber, ceramic, marble, all different types of material you can cut. You can cut also what is called the silicon wafers, semiconducting materials, even the hard materials like diamond, okay, and silicon nitride or carbide material. So all these hard material you can cut, okay, because laser cutting is basically a thermal process, doesn't depend on the material hardness. You can do the welding of similar material as well as the dissimilar metals and alloys. You can do the welding. You can do the laser surface hardening. You can do the alloying on the top surface. You can do the laser cladding. You can do the rapid manufacturing or additive manufacturing. You can do the marking, engraving, metal forming, as well as laser drilling. So it is missing here. You can do the drilling as well. Okay. So all these things you can realize by this process, by the laser. So this is all shown here, like laser cutting, drilling, welding, cladding, rapid manufacturing. Then you have got this metal sheet has been bent without putting any mechanical force. Okay, you can bend by just scanning the laser beam, and because of the thermal stress, it can just bend like this. Here, the transparent material has been processed inside. So in a volume of a transparent glass, laser beam has been focused, and as I have mentioned that glass is transparent, and only when the laser intensity is above certain threshold, only there through multiphoton absorption the laser beam is going to get absorbed. So here laser energy or laser power is controlled in such a way that when it is entering on the when it is incident on the surface of the glass, the diameter of the beam is large, so the power density is below the threshold of multiphoton absorption here. Only at the focal point where the diameter is small, there the intensity is above the threshold of multiphoton absorption in glass. So the laser beam is going to get absorbed only at the focal point, not while it is being focused from outside. So now with a pulse laser of nanosecond or sub nanosecond or picosecond duration, very small amount of energy is focused here, and a tiny volume of the material is going to absorb the laser beam, and it is going to get shattered, it is going to get damaged, and that forms a scattering center for the light. So from there you are able to see it, and then you just go on moving the laser beam on inside the volume. Only at the focal point you are going to get those dots, just micro damage is going to be created, and then by moving as per the design of these features, you can you can create in the volume this type of processing you can create. Okay. Here the laser shock pinning is done, and another very interesting application is like you can create micro or nano fabrication. Here this IIT main building has been uh, produced, three-dimensional model has been made in less than a millimeter diameter. It is the scale, if you see that it is 20 microns, so entire thing will be around 500 micron or so, less than less than a millimeter length. Okay, so all these can be done with the help of a laser, and the process with which it is done is known as a two-photon polymerization. Okay, so all these things can be done with this. Now, since we have got a time limit, so I may not be able to go and explain all different laser material processing applications which is possible. However, the important one, which is very popular in normal industry like automobile industry, aerospace industry, rail coach factory, and other industries. So those applications we are going to describe briefly. And these applications include laser cutting of metal sheets, then the welding, joining, and the drilling. Okay, and then we'll dwell upon very briefly on different surface modification as well as the surface this rapid manufacturing, which is nowadays known as a additive manufacturing. Okay. Now, coming to laser cutting, this process dominates